Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto-3, Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature. So, we are in the section 1 to 5. That is the first section of this chapter. Yesterday we have seen Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The personality of Godhead continued. When the living entity is thus unaffected by the modes of material nature, because he is unchanging, avikarat, and does not claim proprietorship, akartutvat, he remains apart from the reactions of the modes, although abiding in the material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on the water. So this is Jala Arkavat. And Srila Prabhupada gives very beautiful purport there, connecting the purport very wonderfully to Bhagavad Gita. So we come to text 2. स एष यर्हि प्रकृतेर्गुणेषु अभिविषज्यते अहंक्रिया विमूढात्मा कर्ता अस्मि इति अभिमन्यते. Translation.
When the soul is under the spell of material nature and false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities, and by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. Purport. Actually, the conditioned soul is forced to act under the pressure of the modes of material nature. The living entity has no independence. When he is under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is free. But when under the impression that he is satisfying his senses, he engages in sense gratificatory activities. He is actually under the spell of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Prakruteha Kriyamanan. One acts according to the particular modes of nature he has acquired. Guna refers to the qualities of nature. He is under the qualities of nature, but he falsely thinks that he is the proprietor. This false sense of proprietorship can be avoided simply by engaging oneself in devotional service under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita was trying to accept for himself the responsibility for killing his grandfather and teacher in the fight, but he became freed from that proprietorship of action when he acted under the direction of Krishna. He fought, but he was actually freed from the reactions of fighting. Although in the beginning he was non-violent, unwilling to fight, the entire responsibility was upon him. That is the difference between liberation and conditioning. A conditioned soul may be very good in and act in the mode of goodness, but still he is conditioned under the spell of material nature. A devotee, however, acts completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Thus his actions may not appear to be of a very high quality to the common man, but the devotee has no responsibility. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now, the Lord says here, when the soul is under the modes of under the spell of material nature. So what is the proof that one is under the spell of material nature? Because Jiva is the Tatastha Shakti. Now Tata, we know, Tata can be either dry or wet, right? The seashore can be dry or wet. Similarly, Jiva, being Tatastha Shakti, can be under either spiritual nature or material nature. Now, when the Jiva is under the spell of material nature, being Tatastha, then what happens? There is false ego. Identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities. And by the influence of the false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. So this is the spell of the material nature. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the conditioned soul is forced to act under the pressure of the modes of material nature, right? Something happens and, we are just forced, avashah, kriyate avashopiyah. Avashopi means helplessly one is forced to act. And what is that force that is acting? The same question is Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is asking that, my dear Krishna, what is that force which acting? And Krishna says the answer, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavam mahashano mahapapma vidhyenam ihvairinam. So the Lord says, my dear Arjuna, this is the modes of material nature, gunamayi, maya, which is acting. And Prabhupada quotes here that, so when one is under the direction of the Supreme Lord, one is free from reactions. But when is under the modes of material nature, one is bound to actions and reactions. And Srila Prabhupada gives a beautiful example here is of Arjuna. Arjuna, in the first chapter, when he said, my dear Krishna, place my chariot between the two armies, let me watch whom I am supposed to fight. And that was the beginning of illusion for Arjuna, right? And there, when he saw, then he was completely bewildered. And he's saying that, oh, my dear Krishna, Katham, Dronam, Bhishmam, there Drona is standing, my Guru, Bhishma, my Pitama is standing, Arisudana, my dear Lord, you are killing your enemies, and you are asking me to kill my own Guru and my own grandfather, great-grandfather. And this is how Arjuna was completely bewildered, because he was going to act under the material spell. Vis-a-vis, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna becomes completely liberated. And he says, my dear Lord, Karishya Vachanam Tava, Nashtamoha Smritir Labdva, and Tat Prasadat Mayachyuta, Gatosmi, my all Sandeha is gone. I will do Karishya Vachanam Tava. And Arjuna is becoming instrument in the hands of Krishna and delivering, such amazing warfare, killing millions of people, warriors, but not responsible even for a slighted scratch on somebody. So Prabhupada says, what a beautiful line Prabhupada writes. He says, a devotee of the Lord, a conditioned soul may act in the mode of goodness, but still be bound to the actions and reactions, right? Later we'll see in the 10th canto, there is a story of King Nriga, Nahusha, slight mistake in even performance of the Vedic sacrifice, and as a reaction they have to become something like a lizard or this or that, something like that. So Prabhupada says a conditioned soul may be very good and act in the mode of goodness, but still he is conditioned under the spell of material nature. A devotee, however, who is completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord, his actions may not be of high quality. Now, what high quality? Because you can see Arjuna is literally butchering everybody, right? He's killing the humans, the Kshatriyas, vis-a-vis compared to somebody who is doing yagya, and compared to Arjuna who is, doing this warfare, ghastly warfare, right? So, but Arjuna is completely beyond the reactions, whereas, somebody, although he may be in the mode of goodness, but acting on his own, he is in the tight control of material nature. Text 3, beautiful verse, we'll recite this. Tena saṁsāra padavim
Tena saṁsāra padavim
avashah bhyeti nivritaha
avashovyeti nivritaha
prasangikai karma doshaihi sadasad mishra yonishu. Translation.
Translation: the conditioned soul therefore transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. Purport: here, the word karma dosha means by faulty actions. This refers to any activity, good or bad, performed in this material world. They are all contaminated, faulty actions because of material association. The foolish conditioned soul may think that he is offering charity by opening hospitals for material benefit or by opening an educational institution for material education. But he does not know that all such work is also faulty because it will not give him relief from the process of transmigration from one body to another. It is clearly stated here, Sada Sanamishra Yonishu. This means that one may take birth in a very high family, or he may take his birth in higher planets among the demigods for his so-called pious activities in the material world. But this work is also faulty because it does not give liberation. To take birth in a nice place or a high family does not mean that one avoids undergoing the material tribulations, the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. A conditioned soul under the spell of material nature cannot understand that any action he performs for sense gratification is faulty, and that only his activities in devotional service to the Lord can give him release from the reaction of faulty activities. Because he does not cease such faulty activities, he has to change to different bodies, some high and some low. That is called saṁsāra padavim, which means this material world from which there is no release. One who desires material liberation has to turn his activities to devotional service. There is no other alternative. Hare Krishna.
Tena samsara padavim. Now he will get a padavi. What is the padavi? He will get samsara padavim. What is samsara? Barambar janma mrityu. This is called as samsara, repeated birth and death. Into the different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with modes of material nature. See, yesterday I had a very strong realization that when we deeply read Bhagavatam, we can clearly understand Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So, when we deeply read Bhagavatam, we can clearly understand Bhagavad Gita. Now, here, Bhagavad Gita writes this, right? Urdhvam gachanti satvastha, madhye tishtanti rajasa, jagannaguna vrittistha, adho gachanti tamasa. That those who are situated in the mode of goodness will be promoted up. Superhuman life like Vidyadharas, Charanas, Gandharvas, Yakshas, or the demigods, so on and so forth, up to Brahmaloka. Right. Madhye tishtanti rajasa, those who are in the mode of passion will continue their stay on the Bhumandala. Jagannaguru vrittistha adho gachanti tamasa. But if we conduct in the mode of ignorance, adho gachanti, one will be born in the subhuman species. Adho gachanti, one will be born like a cockroach or a pig or a fish or whatever, the adho gachanti tamasa. One is situated in tamoguna. So here it is. Because a transmigrate into different species, higher or lower, because of his association with modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved from material activities, he has to accept another position because of karma dosha, faulty work. What is the dosh there? The dosh there is ahankara vimudatma, claiming the proprietorship, claiming the kartutva. That is the dosh, right? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, karma dosha means the faulty work. Bad, sometimes we say faulty work means bad work. Na? No, not bad, even good work also. That doesn't mean we don't have to do good work. No. ISKCON is, ISKCON literally distributes 40 lakh prasadam plates every day. 40 lakh annadan prasadam plates every day. That is, so point is not good, or point is not we don't have to do good work. Point is, even if, see, the bad work will bound us, no doubt, but even the good work will bind the living entity if one is that the work is not connected to Krishna. or the Supreme Krishna, Rama, Narasimha. If the work is not connected to the Supreme Lord, the work will become binding work. So Prabhupada gives example, just like somebody is offering charity, somebody is opening hospital, somebody is opening some educational institutes. Of course, nowadays people open education institute to earn money only. But previously, people used to open educational institute for as a great charity or as a great service to society. There are few exceptions now also. But all this work is also binding, because then one will accumulate lot of punya. Right. And what happens to punya? To exhaust the punya, one has to go to heavenly planets. And thus, the samsara padavim will not be broken. See, the point here Bhagavatam talks about is, the going up, entering the spiritual world and completely transcending the material world. And Bhagavatam said, to the degree, to the point we are in the material world, of course we have to act. We cannot do the mistake that Arjuna was contemplating to do in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, to give up the war. No, we have to be very, very responsible. We have to be very, very resourceful. But all that activity should be connected to Krishna. Otherwise, karma bandhana. Right. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra. Lokoyam karma. Otherwise, there is karma bandhana, and one will be transmigrating between Brahmanda Brahmite. One will be going to this planet, that planet, like Nahusha. He did a lot of sacrifices, did a lot of charity, went to the higher planet, then, got in love with, he wanted to enjoy Sachi, he became Indra, and then for that one fault, again came down. And this is how samsara chakram parivarts. This is called as samsara padavi. Continuous transmigration of, within this birth and death. Prabhupada says, this material world is designed like this. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna. Right? From topmost planet to the down, to the patal loka, it is janma mrityu jara vyadhi. There are these, the four faults will always be there. And therefore, any action which is performed for sense gratification becomes a faulty action, karma dosha, because these activities are going to make us bound to the material world. Escapist route is so that I will not do any activity. That is not the idea. That is the mark of the voidist, shunyavadis. No, I will get bound, have no desires, have no activity. Right? No, that is not the point. Point is, one has to perform activity and positively connect that activity with Krishna, and then life becomes, very, very rewarding, very, very resourceful, very, very contributing, and at the same time completely liberating. Right? One has to act, Prabhupada says, in the activities of devotional service, and then one will be released from the reactions of this faulty work. Otherwise, there is samsara padavim. There is no release. One who desires material liberation has to turn his activities into devotional service, and there is no alternative. Turning activities into devotional service is very easy. It is super easy. How? We are doing cooking, everybody is cooking. Okay. The ladies are cooking in the house. What they have to do? Just whatever we have cooked, follow some two, three simple rules. Don't taste in between, preferably cook after taking bath, and, the, and then do bhoga to the Supreme Lord. Even you don't have to do, before doing the tadka of onion garlic, rice, dal, chapati, which doesn't require onion garlic. You first do offering, and then maybe you can do the tadka of onion garlic. You don't have to even outrightly stop onion garlic right away to begin with. But we have to begin with devotional service. So this is the art of performing regular activity into devotional activities. You are going for a job, you are getting some salary as the remuneration of the job. Go to a nearby ISKCON temple, offer something as a charity. Do some Brahman Bhoj sponsorship, sponsor some Bhagavad Gitas, and purify that money which is coming out of job. So that one thing, you are saved from the karma bandhana, and second thing, your entire salary becomes purified. Right. So this is how one has to turn one's activity by connection with Krishna, connecting them with the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada says there is no other alternative. Otherwise, this samsara chakram parivartayed yat is very strong, and that padavi is there, that is samsara padavi. Text 4. अर्थे हि अविद्यमानेऽपि संस्मृतिर्न निवर्तते ध्यायतो विषयानस्य स्वप्नेनर्थस्य आगमा यथा. Translation.
Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease. And just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. Purport. The example of a dream is very appropriate due to different mental conditions. In dreams, we are put into advantageous and disadvantageous positions. Similarly, the spirit soul has nothing to do with this material nature. But because of his mentality of lording it over, he is put into the position of conditional existence. Conditional existence is described here as dhyato vishayan asya. Vishaya means an object of enjoyment. As long as one continues to think that he can enjoy material advantages, he is in conditioned life. But as soon as he comes to his senses, he develops the knowledge that he is not the enjoyer, for the only enjoyer is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, he is the beneficiary for all the results of sacrifices and penances. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. But he is the proprietor of all the three worlds, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the actual friend of all living entities. But instead of living proprietorship, enjoyment, and actual position as the friend of all living entities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we claim that we are the proprietors, the enjoyers, and friends. We perform philanthropic work thinking that we are the friends of human society. Someone may proclaim himself to be a very good national worker, the best friend of the people and of the country. But actually, he cannot be the greatest friend of everyone. The only friend is Krishna. One should try to raise the consciousness of the conditioned soul to the platform of understanding that Krishna is his actual friend. If one makes friendship with Krishna, one will never be cheated and he will get all help needed. Arousing this consciousness of the conditioned soul is the greatest service, not posing oneself as a great friend of another living entity. The power of friendship is limited. Although one claims to be a friend, he cannot be a friend unlimitedly. There are an unlimited number of living entities, and our resources are limited. Therefore, we cannot be of any real benefit to the people in general. The best service to the people in general is to awaken them to Krishna consciousness so that they may know that the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend is Krishna. Then this illusory dream of lording it over material nature will vanish.
Yeah, now text 4. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence. Paropi. The living entity is superior energy. He is Paraprakriti of the Lord and thus transcendental to material nature. Right. But because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, proprietorship, which Lord Kapila is continuously talking, proprietorship, his material existential condition does not cease. Right. And just as in the dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the example of a dream is very appropriate. That sometimes, due to different conditions, like we may eat late in the night or we eat excessively in the night. These are the two conditions when one will dream a lot. Prabhupada writes this in Bhagavad Gita. Then one will put in the dream. And there in the dream, one may be put in various advantageous or disadvantageous position, right? Like sometimes in the dream, somebody may become a king and or a queen, and has doing some jalavihar, and has some hundreds of some dasi around. They are doing massaging, this and that, and people smile also in the dream. They're laughing also, smiling, and really enjoying the life. And the person sitting next to him, sleeping next to him, is worried why this fellow is smiling in the dream. So this is sometimes we may put in advantageous position. Sometimes we may put in some disadvantageous position. One is doing some bungee jumping and suddenly coming down, and the rope is toot jata hai beech mein, and he's just falling, screaming, crying, perspiring very heavily, and suddenly wakes up and realizes, is and although the dream is illusory in a way, but the experience is real. And the proof of the experience is there. When it's perspiring, heartbeat is, when is like breathing very heavily, one is very very tired, getting up within the sleep, after full sleep one is extremely tired, right? So one may be put in some advantageous or disadvantageous positions in the dream. But has anything happened to the person? No, he was just peacefully sleeping on his bed, but he experienced something in the dream. Similarly, Prabhupada says, similarly, the spirit soul has nothing to do with material nature, right? He has nothing to do with material. He is para prakriti. But because of the mentality of lording it over, he is going through all these experiences, right? And this begins with the material contamination begins with dhyayato vishayan pumsah. So this is Bhagavad Gita. Dhyayato vishayanasya, right? Bhagavad Gita explains this, 2.63. Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate. Sangat sanjayate kamah, kamat krodho vijayate, krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhrama, smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Right. So this is how the material bonding happens. And Prabhupada says, as long as we are in this mood to enjoy materially, to that degree we will be bound. One has to realize that actual enjoyer is the Supreme Lord. Actual proprietor is the Supreme Lord. Actual, genuine, true friend with unlimited resources, with unlimited willingness to help the living entity is the Supreme Lord. Bhoktaram, Yagyatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Surudam Sarvabhutanam, Jnatva Mam, Shanti Mrichati. Then actually one can attain the lasting peace. Prabhupada says, our friendship is faulty. How much we can be a friend? We, somebody, sometimes we want to help a friend. How much can you help a friend? You can help one friend. How many living entities can you help like that? Nowadays, even to help one person becomes so difficult, right? How many people we can help like that? So the point is that one has to realize, one has to connect people to their supreme friend, and that is, the supreme friend is Krishna. So Prabhupada says the best service one can offer is to awaken people in their Krishna consciousness. Of course, this doesn't mean that within our means and capacity we don't do other activities. No, we do. ISKCON is famous for doing those, right? We have hospital services like Bhakti-Vedanta Hospital. We have Food for Life service where, millions of plates are distributed every day. But at the same time, one thing is, all those help is on the platform of prasad. In the sense, the food you distribute is prasad. Even the hospital help that we offer, somehow we are trying to keep Krishna in the center. There's a spiritual care even within the material care. And the first primary help is about connecting people to Krishna by chanting the holy names. And the spreading Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so on and so forth. This is very important. Otherwise, on the material platform, Prabhupada says, you may be a good friend and very accomplished person, but one section of the society will be always dissatisfied you. Prabhupada gives example of Mahatma Gandhi here. Other place, Prabhupada gives example of John F. Kennedy. These two were one of the greatest world leaders of their times. Both were shot dead. Because one section, you cannot satisfy everyone on the material platform. One section of the society will always be displeased with you. Therefore, the best service is to connect people to Krishna. And therefore they are called as Bhurida Jana. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He has unlimited patience, unlimited resources, and unlimited capacity to do follow-up of a living entity, life after life, birth after birth. The Lord is coming as, the Bhuri Karuna. He's coming as Paramatma and assisting the living entity. And the greatest service is if one can mold people or keep Krishna in people's life and connect them to their real friend. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
No problem,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Adbil.